last week, I spoke about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset and the impact that mindset has on determining what you can and cannot achieve. So, did you watch the Zoo Tiger versus Jungle Tiger video? If you didn't, I recommend doing it now by clicking on the link below. Did you answer the 3 questions I had posed to you? At the risk of sounding like a broken record, in order to get the most out of this program, taking action is critical. Remember, information by itself is potential power. It's when information meets action that transformation occurs. All right, so this week we're going to talk about how you build and develop a growth mindset. And number 1, it starts with being self-aware. Remember, self-awareness is step 1 to any performance improvement. If we're not paying attention to our internal self-talk and the words we're telling ourselves, we won't recognize our belief systems that can potentially hinder our growth and achievement. Being present moment focused is one way to be more self-aware of your thoughts in the moment. Another way to build a growth mindset is through reflection. Now don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to start keeping a diary, but periodically take a few minutes to reflect on different situations that have happened or on specific moments. These moments can improve your level of self-awareness. My asking you to reflect on when you have acted like a zoo tiger versus a jungle tiger and the impacts that those moments have had is an example of the type of reflection that you can do. After you make a decision, for example, take a moment and ask yourself why you made that decision. Were there any underlying stories that you were telling yourself that led you to that decision? Here's a personal example. For a long time, I told myself that I was more effective working with individuals one-on-one rather than in groups. I realized that I was giving myself a reason not to do group workshops because I did not like public speaking. In fact, I absolutely hated it. Anytime I had to stand in front of a group, my palms would sweat, my heart felt like it was beating out of my chest, and my attention was so narrowed that I became easily distracted. To say that public speaking was outside of my comfort zone would be an understatement. I wanted to stay in the zoo, so I gave myself an out by telling myself that it was more impactful working one-on-one. While it was true that I wasn't great at public speaking, it wasn't because I was naturally bad at it. It was because I hadn't practiced it. I hadn't developed that skill. After realizing this, I started to force myself to seek out situations where I would have to do workshops and speak in front of groups and get into the jungle of being uncomfortable, but also learning and developing my skills. So I really encourage you to take those moments of reflection on why you do or do not engage in certain behaviors or activities. Another strategy you can use is to pick a skill that you've never done, but may have always had interest in doing, and spend time learning it. Have you always wanted to learn the piano, but thought you weren't musically inclined? This one is actually mine. I mentioned a few weeks ago that I had no interest in music as a child. But now that I'm an adult, it is something that I would actually like to learn. So I challenge you to think of a skill that you might have thought that you weren't interested in and spend some time doing it. I also challenge you to question your belief systems. I was doing a workshop with a volleyball team, and I asked them for some examples of things that they believed they weren't naturally good at. I then asked them how much time they had spent developing those skills. I'm sure that you can guess that the time spent wasn't very long. I then asked them how many hours they had devoted to practicing their sport, and for many of them, it was thousands of hours. I concluded with the question, how good would you be at music or art or dance or whatever the skill you said you weren't good at if you had spent the same thousands of hours developing that skill? Obviously, the answer would be very good. A couple of other strategies you can use to develop a growth mindset is to view challenges that you face as opportunities to learn and grow rather than as threats. Just as our muscles need to be worked out and stressed in order to build and get stronger, so does our brain. Another strategy is you can place more value on the process rather than the outcome. When you focus on small incremental growth, you are able to more clearly see your improvement. It's seeing these improvements that will increase your intrinsic motivation and your drive to continue developing this skill. Finally, embrace the word yet. You may not be able to run a 7-minute mile yet, but with the proper instruction and training, you can, if that's a goal of yours. You may not feel connected to your team yet, but with specific strategies and a plan, you will. The point is that we can accomplish almost anything that we set our minds to if we have the right resources and commitment to accomplish it. So, I encourage you to try some of these strategies, and please share what is working for you and what's not working for you in the High Performers Facebook group so we can all learn from each other. Until next time, have a great day.